Today's guest, Katie Kortman, makes me want to sew, dance, and doodle all at once. You know, it's not real hard to get me to shake a tail feather or pick up a paintbrush, but anyone that inspires me to want to thread a bobbin must be special. Y'all, I am Jennifer Perkins, and this is the Creative Queso Podcast. Welcome. Hello. I'm glad you're here. Every week, I chat with a different guest all about the business of being creative and the creativity behind running a business. Today's guest is seamster, dancing Instagram sensation, artist, mother of four, spoonflower fabric designer, and all-around awesome lady, Katie Kortman. When Katie made a commitment to start sewing her own clothes, she decided to put her art degree to good use and go ahead and make her own fabric as well. It was like a little crafty light bulb, an epiphany of sorts. Fast forward to Katie having a successful spoonflower store and fans using her designs to create everything from their own clothing to duvet covers. Katie and I chat about repeat patterns, how to make your spoonflower shop stand out, and how, as Katie puts it, the magic that happens from just being yourself and doing what comes naturally and makes you happy. All right, let's do this. All right, Katie, thank you so much for being on Creative Queso with me.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I should have recorded this so you could have danced for us. I should have done the video option. Man, I didn't plan that right.
If only podcasts had a video portion to them.
I know, right? They should. I'm going to start putting these on YouTube one day. When I do that, I'm going to loop back around and have like a dance party.
Okay.
Dance party interview. You can show me how to dance as well as talk about fabric and sewing and all the things business. Sound good?
Sound good. I'm here for it.
All right. So let's start from the beginning. Let's go back. Let's take everybody on a journey all about Katie. So you're most well known at this juncture for fabric and sewing, but from my cyber stalking research, you actually have a background in degrees in art, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So did you ever think that you would be a seamster or, you know what I mean? How did you end up where you are now? Everybody I talk to has a degree or an original plan of something completely different than what they do now. So you're totally not alone, but how did you end up, sewing and being known as that person that paints your own clothes or, makes your own designs and sews them? How did you get there?
Well, it's only been a year since I've been doing the Instagram thing. But so I went to art school from 7th to 12th grade. Half my day was art. And then I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts in painting and drawing. And during my bachelor's, I bought myself a sewing machine because I actually wanted to be a fashion designer. I decided halfway through my degree, but there was no fashion design program at my school. So I bought a sewing machine and they did have sewing classes. And so I kind of just taught myself. And then I took one class, which I had been engaged to somebody while I was taking that class. And I was sewing things for the wedding, not my wedding dress, but other things to do at the wedding. And he broke off the wedding in the middle of that class. So I learned a little bit and I cried a whole lot. So,
oh my gosh, seriously.
I know I learned, I'm sure I know I got skills from that class, but it wasn't as good as it could have been.
Life skills, if not sewing skills.
Oh my gosh, I was a mess.
Bless your heart.
Yeah. And then I just kept sewing. I didn't know how to use a real pattern. I guess I had learned a little bit in that class, but like I said, I was a mess. So I didn't really, after that class, I still didn't really know how to use a pattern. And I just kind of made stuff up for years. I just made stuff up. And so I couldn't really sew anything more than a stretchy shirt or a stretchy dress that I could just put on. I didn't know how to do a zipper or buttons or anything. And then when I had kids, I started sewing for my kids the same kind of way, just kind of making stuff up. And it was a couple years ago that I finally started sewing a little bit more for myself and started using PDF patterns because I felt like they kind of walked you through, like baby stepped you through everything. And I knew how to use a sewing machine. It was just a matter of understanding how to read a pattern and follow a pattern. That was the real issue. And then a year and a half ago, I decided to start just sewing my clothes and not buying any clothes because I thought if I did that, then I would up my sewing skill level. I would stop being scared of zippers. I would stop being scared of buttons and I would learn how to sew a swimsuit and learn how to sew jeans and things that I never thought I would really do. I never thought I'd have those skills. And so when I started doing that is when I, like, probably 6 months into that, 7 months, it was like back in like August, September, I started posting more on Instagram, which kind of had this snowball effect. I started doing the Handmade Hustle and I started challenges. I was trying to get people like, okay, we're all posting pictures of ourselves wearing our handmade clothes and that's exciting. But like everyone just kind of looked like they were just standing there in their clothes. And I'm like, let's make this more fun. Like I get really excited when I completed something like, yes, I did that. And so I thought, like, why not dance? And why not get everybody dancing? And then there was a contest for called Sew Frosting. And it was about sewing stuff that wasn't just like your everyday clothes. People were kind of getting in this habit of just sewing their everyday clothes and like, let's sew frosting. Let's sew something that's maybe you can't wear every day, but it's fancy and exciting. And I had made another goal for myself in 2018, and that was to design my own fabric, which is something I had always wanted to do. And my professors in college, my painting professors, always told me that I have very abstract artwork. They said it would lend itself really well to textile design. And I had thought about going to get a master's in textile design, but I never did. I got a master's in teaching and I taught instead. But anyway, so I used that Sew Frosting contest as my personal deadline because I was supposed to do it in the year. It was one of my 18 things I wanted to do in 2018 was to design my own fabric. And it was November and I still hadn't done it. It was like one of the only things I hadn't checked off my list. And it's something I always wanted to do. So I was like, okay, I'll use the Sew Frosting challenge as my deadline. And I didn't have time to learn how to do it digitally. So I just used fabric someone had given to me. I used a pattern I already had. I used paints I already had. I didn't buy a single thing. And I won that contest. It was like over 2,000 people, or 2,000 entries or something. So that was a big deal. And that kind of made everything happen for me. The Spoonflower contacted me, fabric shops contacted me about designing fabric. And so then I quickly taught myself, I watched a bunch of tutorials on how to make repeats and stuff like that. And here I am. How many months is it? We are in the 8th month of the year. And now I'm a fabric designer. I'm a textile designer. What?
How did that happen? Look at you go.
Yeah, right. It was just November. I painted a dress and now I'm selling fabric all the time and I'm an ambassador for Spoonflower and I can't
That's
even
amazing.
really believe it.
Well, the crazy thing is like, I don't even sew and I know who you are. And I can see when you talk about the frosting dress, like I can see it. I can see the dress. I can see the fabric. Like, you know what I mean? So you've even crossed over to the people that are like, afraid of their sewing machine land.
Don't be afraid. I wasn't ever afraid of the sewing machine. I was afraid of, like I said, like I was afraid of putting in a sleeve. I was afraid of buttons. I was afraid of zippers.
Mm-hmm.
But don't be like, there's nothing to be afraid of. You make
all
a mistake.
Those feet.
What?
I said all those feet. They get scary.
You mostly just need like a regular foot and a zipper foot. That's, I guess, a buttonhole foot. But.
I know. I get so confused by all of them.
Oh yeah, it's like you have a manual. You just open
exactly
and you read it. It's not. I have to do it still sometimes for stuff.
Yeah, I remember when I like first started sewing, I would literally like this was so long ago before FaceTime or any of those things. I would like scan my hand in, showing my mother like me trying to open the bobbin thing, and then I would like email it to her
What am I
for her to
doing
like
wrong?
email me back. Exactly, like why
Oh
can't
my
I get this
gosh.
bobbin to work? Like, so I think I'm scarred for life from that, but I need to get
You know,
you make it sound so easy.
you probably have a sewing machine with the old kind of bobbin thing where you have to stick the bobbin in the bobbin holder, get the bobbin holder into the machine. Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. You need to get a new machine that has the top loader where it has a picture of exactly how you put it in and you just drop the bobbin in there and it's basically ready to go.
Oh,
It's much,
I
I mean,
do
I can
need
do
to
the old kind,
upgrade.
but it's much easier. Yeah.
My
Even
gosh, yeah.
upgrading, it's like $150 maybe for that machine. It's not bad.
Jeez, I could make that happen.
Yeah.
Well, okay, maybe I will do
Then you
that.
can sew your whole wardrobe like me.
There's a bunch of things on that whole topic I want to touch on because it's all amazing and I love people's like story of how they had this like launch. But, going back to like step 1 with art, do you still like find yourself ever like painting like not for work? I mean, do you still like dabble in the arts? And if so, like what mediums do you like?
So last January, when I made my 18 things for 2018, so
Uh-huh.
a year and a half ago, I had put on there to make 6 paintings because I had noticed that I used to like go back and forth. I'd sew for a few months and then I'd get sick of sewing and I'd paint for a few months and I'd kind of go back and forth and back and forth. But when I started sewing my own wardrobe more, I never wanted to stop. I think it's because before I was sewing a lot for my kids, and that's
Mm-hmm.
fun, but it's not as like satisfying as sewing for yourself. So,
Yeah.
so I made a goal to make 6 paintings because I had noticed that I hadn't painted in a while, and I really love painting. I just got you get out of the habit, you stop having the inspiration, and when
Mm-hmm.
you're doing it, you're inspired to do it more. So I made those 6 paintings and I sold like half of them. And I was doing custom work for people in California and in Boston. And then when the sewing thing like really took off last September, when I started really posting about it, then I stopped painting. And that's why when I started painting fabric and designing fabric, it was just like this huge light bulb went off for me because I had noticed that I was sewing so much that I didn't have time to paint. But when I'm designing fabric and painting fabric, because I still do both, I get to combine the art making and the sewing together.
Mm-hmm.
So I've made maybe a few paintings this year, not so many because I am so inundated with work. But
There's worse problems to have.
yeah, but I still have 4 kids at home, so that
I
work
know.
as well as it's really what takes up most
Yeah.
of my time. But I do have somebody who's requesting a custom painting, so I will probably be doing that again soon. So
Now, was there like a moment where you were like, whoa, this is it. This is how, like, because I do the same thing, if like all the painting stuff is out, then I'm super into painting. If all the scrapbooking stuff is out, then I'm super into scrapbook. It really kind of depends on like what's lying on the table that I can just meander over to and put my hands on. But was there like a moment for you when you were like, I love sewing, I love painting, like, ta-da? Or did the like sew frosting thing kind of throw you into that epiphany of like combining forces?
Yes, the sew frosting challenge, when I painted that dress, that is when I realized that the two could be combined and I could do both things that I love together. It was that like, if I hadn't done that challenge, I would not be where I am right now. And I also wouldn't have realized that I could combine the two. I mean, I always knew I could, but I just never did. I never got around to it. I never got the paints or got the paints out, or I was too scared to paint expensive fabric, but I had used fabric that someone had given me. And so it felt like, okay, well, if this goes wrong, then, I'm not out any money. So I'm just so glad that I finally did it because that was my big light bulb moment. I remember being so excited and telling my husband, like, this is it. I can paint my clothes and now I can still feel like I haven't given up my art, being an artist. even though I'm so obsessed with sewing, I can't stop. And so, you know, and I think when my kids are all in school and I have more time, not that I have tons of time, but I'll have more free time without kids messing things up. I will be able to have the time to also make paintings and stuff like that that are not just for fabric. But at the moment, I only get so many hours.
School starts tomorrow here.
Yeah,
School starts tomorrow. I'm counting down the minutes. Love my kid, but mommy needs her time back.
Yeah, I know you love them, but you just need some time alone.
Exactly. So I can like complete a thought all the way through and actually.
Yeah. And my kids, I just got back from Iceland, and I had a few days before Iceland, and I have yesterday and today, and I'm going to get them tomorrow from Atlanta. But having these days in my house without my kids has been amazing. Even though like I said, I love my kids. Everybody, you know, should know that. But I cleaned my house and it didn't get dirty. I only had to prepare meals for me, and I didn't whine about it.
You ate your vegetables without being bribed. It was glorious.
I didn't have to hide in the closet to eat chocolate so no one stole it.
Girl, I hear you. You are not alone. So, you know, talking about, you know, painting your fabric, I know with the sew frosting thing, you literally painted that fabric. But when going forward in the new fabrics that you create, do you still like paint it and then scan it in to Procreate or a program like that? Or do you start straight on the iPad now when you're creating designs?
So I'm doing two things. One, I'm still painting on fabric. I've actually written some magazine articles for Sewed News, painting fabric. I have a bunch of tutorials on my blog, and I'm teaching classes kind of up and down the East Coast at different fabric shops, teaching painting fabric. So I'm doing that. But then with my fabric design, they have all started with either a painting. I think I've done maybe a few that are just directly on the computer, but I'm trying to still use I've been using paintings that I made years ago for some of the fabric designs. And I'm making new paintings that I am painting something specifically to be used in a fabric design. And then I'm doing a little bit of stuff that's just digital drawing. And I'm using both Photoshop and Procreate, depending on if I'm at home or on the go.
Interesting. So now what you mentioned that you kind of had to quickly like learn on the fly, like how to do the repeat patterns. I know like for me personally, that's like a holdup. Like I did a project with Spoonflower for a book they released last fall. Like I created a zipper pouch sunglasses case, and I needed to like make my own fabric for it. And, you know, I was just like, repeat pattern was like blowing my mind. Like luckily like Spoonflower has that very, you know, the program where you can like make it yourself or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But like, how did you learn? I mean, were you just like free on YouTube, or were you like a monthly subscriber to Skillshare? Like,
yeah, that's actually
any tips? Did you? Okay. Yeah. I know there's some great classes on there about repeat patterns. Like, I mean, you know, who wouldn't love to have some repeat pattern action, but it does seem daunting.
Yeah, I had looked into creating repeats like a decade ago, and it looked so complicated. I just never got around to doing it. And so when Spoonflower asked me if I wanted to turn my dress painting into a digital repeat, and then the fabric shop asked me if I wanted to sell designs, I was like, yes, I cannot let these opportunities pass me by. And so I really love a deadline. I really love somebody telling me they want something, because I want to do a bunch of things, but there's a long list of things for me to do all the time. So having them ask me to do it meant that I made sure I got it done, instead of saying, oh, one day I think I'll be a fabric designer. And so over the Christmas break, while I had lots of people in town, I downloaded Skillshare and did the free month, and then I ended up subscribing for a few more months. But I looked at or watched some of the repeat pattern programs or classes, but most people that design fabric do it in Illustrator, and they're doing it all digitally in Illustrator. And I started out as a graphic design major in my undergrad and realized that I hated the computer and I really hated Illustrator. So I'm sure I could go back right now and learn it. Maybe it'd be fine. But knowing that I already hated Illustrator, I thought, well, I'll just figure out how to do this in Photoshop. So I watched only tutorials that showed you in Photoshop. And then it turns out that Photoshop just came out with this extension that you download for free into the Photoshop. It's not an app or program, whatever. And it creates the repeat for you. So you can drag the things that you want to repeat to the edges, and then you just click a little button that says wrap this so that it goes to the other edge to create a half drop repeat or a grid repeat or whatever kind of repeat. You have like different options to choose from, and it does it for you. So that I came in at the right time. Yeah, I was like, I don't have to calculate anything and all the other stuff that looked complicated.
I know. I'm like computers and math and precision. Like I just start to shut down. Man, somebody from Adobe just reached out to me today about doing some sort of blog post. I'm going to like write them back and be like, yeah, I'll do your blog post if you hook me up with hook me up with some of this repeat pattern action. Yeah. Hoosie, so before we go like deeper into fabric, you've mentioned more than once here, and I like this about you, that you like these like deadlines and that you set these goals for yourself, like the 18 and 2018, which I'm totally going to steal because currently I do like for every year old I am, I try to do that. Like when I turned 40, I was like, I'm going to do 40 new things that I've never done, like jazzercise in a new restaurant. And I'm getting older and that list is getting longer. So I'm going to start going with that. Like next year it'll be 20 rather than, a number I shall not name of things. So
I didn't
tell me about your like,
I can't, I got it from Gretchen Rubin, who wrote the book Happier. It has a podcast.
Oh yeah. I love all things Gretchen Rubin. It's a good one. So do you find that just helps you like stay inspired and trying new things and like setting all these goals for yourself?
Yeah, I am like type A personality, and Gretchen Rubin has like different personality types. I'm the one who will meet a deadline, somebody else's deadline, and who also will meet their own deadlines and like makes their own goals and set, I'm kind of crazy like that. So knowing that about myself, I'm like, well, if I write it down and publish it and tell people, then, I will do it. And on my list, I don't put anything that I don't really want to do. Like, and Gretchen talked about this in her podcast, that, this list isn't supposed to be like things that you think you should do, you don't really want to do, but you should. So you're going to put them on that list. I could also put those and probably, accomplish them. But I wanted to do this year too. I wanted to do a list of things that would bring me joy, that I really wanted to do, but that I might not always get to if I don't have it on my like to-do list, like the fabric design, which I had wanted to do for 15 years and had never done. I put it on that list. I finally did it. So yeah, I've told like people that make patterns, fabric patterns, not prints, but sewing patterns.
Yeah.
I tell them like, if they're going to give me a pattern to sew, please give me a deadline, because if I have it, and I don't have a deadline, I can't guarantee when I will get to that. So please just tell me like, I would like that, but in 3 weeks, could you make something or something like that? It helps me.
No, I am the exact same way. Like literally, like if there is like it is due on September 12th, like I am on it. But if you say like it's due in September, like it might be December, and I'm just like, I promise I'm going to get that to you. Like I need that deadline. I need that date. I need you to, do your deadline and my deadline. Well, good to know. Well, I just knew, between like you have like your challenges online, and you mentioned the 2018. I could tell you are very like, you're a lister, that you like that kind of that kind of thing. As do I. You're not alone. In art school, it was
a problem because I'm, like I said, like a type A person. I like to get straight A's. I want to, be successful. I want to, get the best grade and whatever. And then as an artist, you're supposed to be free and it doesn't matter about your grades. And my professors, I would say to my professors, like, okay, so now what do you need for an A on this project? And they're like, Katie, grades shouldn't matter. It's your portfolio that matters. And I'm like, yes, but I also have a scholarship, academic scholarship. And I also, don't know what the future holds, and I want a good GPA. So I love math and I love art, and it's kind of sometimes crazy combining the two parts of me.
Yeah. But, and I think a lot of times in order to be successful as a creative, you need that side of things too. Do you know what I mean? Like you need to have those parameters and those deadlines and those skills, because, when I was a full-time jewelry designer, I used to always say there was lots of people that made way better jewelry than me, but they just didn't, know how to manage like a deadline or interact with the press or, work a social media thing. And those are all like super important things if you want to do it for your job.
Right. It's that business, like being able to do the business part of the creative, like you need both.
Exactly. They go hand in hand. So speaking of business, I want to talk about Spoonflower for a minute because, I bet a lot of people are curious. I'm always curious about it. So we kind of touched on like what life was like before Spoonflower. You weren't really like in the market of making your own fabric and stuff before then. But now that you have a store, you're not one of those Spoonflower stores that has like 7,000 different options, right? Which I think is good. So do you know what I mean? Because sometimes it just gets daunting, you go to a place that has like 7,000, like the Thai restaurant. And I'm just like, I don't know. There's like 12 pages. Like, just give me 3 pages or 2 pages. Yeah. It's too much. So do you ever like retire fabrics or, I wonder how you keep a balance between like new and fresh options and classic bestsellers, but your page is still very concise and not overwhelming.
Well, I haven't been doing it for long enough to have to edit it down yet. I'm working on a new collection right now that will be released in September, hopefully.
Exciting.
But, I think in the Spoonflower website, each shop, you can have like different collections. And, at this point, my stuff I do have different collections. I don't know what you're seeing when you look, but I guess not all the designers do that. And so it can be overwhelming. But if you were ever to like go into a shop and want it to like not be so overwhelming, you could just, click on someone's collection. So I have my Dash collection. Mm-hmm. And so you can look at just my Dash prints, or I have I think there's one that's like from paintings or something collection, my So Frosting collection. This next one is going to be called my Rainbow collection, even though there are no actual rainbows in my Rainbow collection. But it's a colorful collection is basically what I'm saying. But
so for someone who's trying to make a living as a fabric designer, or at least, have it as a decent side hustle, like what are some of your tips for getting people to your like Spoonflower store? Because, there is like, if you type in abstract pattern, a bazillion things are going to come up, right? So like, do you have any like tips for getting your fabrics to stand out or ways to promote it?
So yeah, I used to look at Spoonflower and see that there were hundreds of thousands of designs. So, for me, I think because I had created a following on Instagram just from sewing and dancing and everything, I already had an audience that was interested in what I was doing. And as I started to design, I would put it in my stories. I was showing like, look, I'm learning how to design fabric. And I showed my process, and I still try to show my process sometimes. And so when my first prints came out, I think I released like 6 at once or something. When I first released that little first mini collection, I already had an audience of people that were like waiting for this collection to be released. And so I had people buying it. And another thing is I noticed between me and other surface pattern designers is that a lot of times they're just showing their designs, but I am showing them sewn up into something. And so for people that need to see like, okay, well, I see that a design looks different digitally than it does on fabric, in 3 dimensions. So I think that also helps, that people can see me wearing it or whatever I've sewn it into. And that helps. And then I also created my own hashtag, which was Katie Kortman Fabric. And whenever someone purchases fabric from my Spoonflower shop, there's an automatic email that goes out and says like, thank you for purchasing my fabric. And I'd love to see what you've created. Tag me, Katie Kortman Art, and then also use the hashtag Katie Kortman Fabric. That way other people can see what you've sewn up with my fabric, and so that I can feature you in my stories. So I think that having that has also helped.
That's that business side we were talking about, like those great ideas and having that social media, why that side of things is so important.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what helps me stand out, because I in the hundreds of thousands of designs on Spoonflower, mine might not really be showing up still in a search unless you're searching something very specific. And since my stuff is all very abstract, there's not a lot of really specific words to have my stuff show up, other than I usually put like the colors that I've used. There's like, you can use tags and stuff on your designs, but I don't have penguins and flowers and bananas and stuff like that so that people can find me. So I don't depend on the Spoonflower website to be the place that people find me. I am depending on Instagram and my blog for people finding me that way.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think your point of you wearing the outfit sewn in, I think that's why I noticed them. Like I saw you, or I saw Meredith from Spoonflower, and I see people wearing it. People need to see it sometimes. Like I just know that from my own jewelry days. Like if it was ever a piece, it was like in a magazine and there was a picture of a model wearing it, or I sold it with a picture of someone wearing it. It always sold better than just like a picture of jewelry just like laying on a white surface, because people can kind of visualize it like, oh, this is what it looks like.
Right. Plus on a screen, it sometimes, I mean, Spoonflower has a great thing in the website where you can see they have like somebody holding up a piece of fabric so you can see what the print looks like on yardage. But it also just helps like, oh, that's the scale of that print. I can see it on her body, how big that print is or how small that print is. Yeah. No,
I totally, I'm that person that like, I don't care if you tell me how big it is. Like, please take a picture of it with a penny and a ruler.
Yes.
Like, I need that. Like, work with me, people.
And also with the D&H Fabrics collection that I did, I mean, she did this, but we talked about it together. We sent the fabric out to people, like other Instagrammers that we thought had, whose aesthetic kind of worked with my fabric. We let them pick which one they wanted, and then they sewed something up, and then we, promoted them and, check them out wearing this fabric. And their followers are seeing that fabric. So, there's a lot of ways to market yourself, but you have to do something to stand out. I mean, there's a bunch of people doing everything. So
yeah, I mean, it's no different than like if you have an Etsy store selling vintage or soap or, the chances of them finding you on Etsy are slim. You need to do something on the side to make it visible. Yeah. And you've done such a fabulous job, like with like you said, your challenges and your hashtags and your dancing. So talk dance parties to me. Like how did that? I mean, I love that about it. And I love the little like coordinated one that you have. That's not the word I'm looking for. Like synchronized, I guess. Choreographed. Thank you. That's the other C word. There it is. With you guys, in your little pom-pom headdresses. Like, it's also cute. Like, how did that come about? Were you just like, did you secretly like always take dance class and you're like, I need to work this into the art sewing trifecta?
So my mom was a ballerina before she had me. And so dance is just like in my blood. And I did take some dance classes when I was young. And then I went to an art school, like I said, and I didn't major in dance. I was majoring in art, visual arts. So I didn't take any dance classes in high school, but I definitely went dancing a lot with my friends, like to parties and church dances and stuff. And then in college, I noticed that they had like beginning classes. And so I made sure I took one like sort of physical class, like that made me move my body every semester in college. And so I took like a social dance class, Polynesian dancing. I danced in the Tahitian, they had like a multicultural dancing week every year. And one year I danced for Tahiti with a bunch of Polynesian girls and me, very white. And then I danced one year for Panama and like a traditional Panamanian dress. I took ballet 1 and ballet 2. I took modern dance. I took jazz dance. I took lots of dance classes. And then when I graduated, I didn't have a lot of parties to go to. I didn't have a lot of dance classes to take. And then I got married. I had kids. But I've always really loved dancing. And my kids and I put music on all the time and dance. So it just was like a natural thing for me to do. And like I said, I just wanted to make the sewing Instagram just a little bit more fun. And I was like, oh, well, I'll have this dancing. I had done a few dances already, like just, hey, I made this outfit, I'm going to dance. And back when I had like 200 followers and I wasn't posting very often and people always really liked them. And so when I decided to start doing the Instagram thing for real, I was like, oh, I will do dancing. Like, as far as I knew, no one else was really doing it. I'm sure they were, but because I wasn't really in the Instagram sewing world, I hadn't seen any. And so I was like, yeah, I'll start these dance challenges and I'll have people win prizes, patterns and stuff if they do the dance challenge. And at first it was really slow going. I couldn't get anyone to dance because they were too scared to put it in their feed and have everyone see it. But now people are doing it without me even having a contest. And my dances have become a little bit like before in the fall when I was doing that, I would just put my son down for his nap. My other kids were at school and I would throw on my clothes, put on like purple lipstick and a purple wig or whatever, and bust out random accessories and put music on my computer and I would film a dance just right there. But now I am like editing and making them a little bit more curated, but I need to post some of the crazy ones still where I'm just like on the fly.
We need the outtakes.
Yeah. Sometimes I put them in my stories.
Well, I love it. It's such because plus, I don't know, first of all, when you're sewing, you sit on your butt a lot. So who doesn't need to get up and dance every now and then, and like nobody wants a blood clot. So get up and like shake it out.
But like
but
now
it's just so fun.
now that it's caught on, everybody is like, oh, I already was dancing before. I just wasn't putting it on Instagram. And I'm like, yeah, everybody secretly, or not everybody, a lot of people secretly dance in their house all the time when nobody's watching. But, and people at first that were scared to put it on there, I'm like, what do you think's going to happen? This isn't high school or middle school where someone's going to make fun of you for your, dorky dance moves. People are so excited to see other people put themselves out there with mistakes, with not being super cool and super perfect. People love that. And so I tried to tell everyone, like, look, I'm not doing the coolest dance moves ever all the time. I'm just being myself and people will embrace that. They're not going to make fun of you. They're going to love it. And that is always what happens. Everyone was just scared at first.
Yeah. I'm a little scared. I'm not going to lie, but maybe I'll like be a big girl and do a dance party.
Well, you can start out doing it in your stories because those disappear in 24 hours anyway.
That's true. What is it, that hashtag that it's like feeling cute, might delete later, I can put that. I'll put that in there. So when you and I were emailing, you were saying like, I asked if one of the things that you wanted to talk about, and you said, and this is a quote, being yourself and how I just decided to do what came naturally, what made me happy, and how it can lead to things because it is genuine and real. And so I think like your dancing like really has, led to that. I think, because I think you're right. I don't know if you said it here or you said it on another podcast or interview I was listening to, but a lot of times when you make something for yourself, like my husband and kids aren't like, they don't care.
Right.
But like I might like be dancing around going like, ooh, ooh, look what I made. Look what I made. And they're just like, whatever, like we all do that when we're like so excited.
Right. And like when I said that, that's what happened for me. I remember in the fall when I started the Handmade Hustle, I said to my best friend, Jill, who is also on Instagram, sewing on Instagram, but she and I were talking and I'm like, this might be too much for people. This might be too weird for the community that I'm doing it in. She was like, well, then those aren't your people. She's like, just be yourself and your people, you'll find, you'll draw the crowd. That's the people, the Katie Kortman's people. And, I was hesitant. And sometimes I'm like, oh no, that one was a little too weird. Nobody, responded or they didn't like it. I would second guess myself, or I'd post something real crazy. Like my hair had tons of crazy stuff in it and I look like a clown and I'm just like really excited that day and I put it all on, I take a photo and I post it. And then I lose like 25 followers. And I would tell my husband, that's back when I could tell how many, I would be like, oh my gosh, my number dropped. And my husband would be like, I don't know, that was kind of a crazy post. And I'd be like, shut up. No, you're supposed to be like, he's very supportive, but I'm like, this is me being myself. And if I lose those 25 people, those were not 25 people that should be following me because I do not want to be what everyone else is because it won't feel natural. And, like I said in that quote that you put on your Instagram, I realized from my own experience that just being who you really are and also not worrying about what other people think, but just doing what's inside of you will create something that is genuine and people will embrace that and be excited about it because you will have genuine excitement about what you're doing. If it's contrived, you can tell. At least I usually feel
totally.
like
Your skills like organic and fun and I think everything you're doing is spot on. And I totally, your friend Jill, she's a wise woman. She should have her own podcast. Like, you can't be everything to everyone. And like, the more you show you, the more your true fans will show up. And the ones that aren't for you will, slowly fade away as they should and find someone who is for them.
Yeah. And it has worked for me. I mean, like I said, like a year ago, I was just, I think I'll start the Handmade Hustle. Actually in August, I wasn't doing that yet, but, everything that I've done, like, I'm going to paint a dress. I'm going to do this dancing. I'm going to sew my own clothes from now on. Everything that just came naturally to me. And even my posts, like I don't spend a ton of time pre-thinking everything out. I tend to just, even the posing with produce. I don't know if you've seen that hashtag that I created.
I've seen you pose with a little bit of produce.
Okay. Well, that one also just came like I had taken this picture with my daughter. We were holding the asparagus. I was holding a tray of asparagus and she was like, ugh, like making a face like that's gross. And I thought it was a funny picture, but I didn't have a real reason to post it on my Instagram other than I was wearing a shirt I'd made. And my friend Tabitha had posted this gorgeous dress that she had made. It was like a Monday or something. And she blew up the internet. And I was like, all I have to post today is this picture of me holding a tray of asparagus. So I made a joke that morning because I was like, what do I post? What compares to that fabulous dress that Tabitha posted? Nothing. I was feeling kind of like comparing myself, which is the thief of joy. And I love her. So I was actually, really excited for her and her pretty dress, but I'm like, I shouldn't even post anything. I have nothing post that is worthy of what she just posted. And anyway, so I made a joke of it and I said, I know that Tabitha thinks that she, did a great job on her dress, but that photo has nothing on this one of me posing with produce. And I just made some joke about how I posed with asparagus and how I won for the day. Sorry, Tabitha, I win. My picture's the best. Made a big joke of it, and she and I were laughing about it. And anyways, it turned into this whole hashtag that now people are posing with produce all the time. And it was just me being silly. I wasn't like, oh, if I start this hashtag, then, people will repost it. And, not that you shouldn't think like a business, but also if you sometimes think too much like a business and not just being yourself, it won't necessarily take off because it's not as genuine. I just think when you're just being yourself, it's more likely to have success.
Exactly. And people are there for you and your pictures and your dancing and your fabrics and your blah, 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 because you do stuff like pose with produce. I mean, that's what makes you amazing and genuine. And people want to gravitate towards you, and so with your stuff.
Yeah. And so now they want to buy my stuff on Spoonflower because I'm posing.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why I wanted you here, because I want to talk to people that want to pose with produce, because, pictures with vegetables that make your pee smell funny are what I am all about. So
totally. That's what we're here for.
Bonus to posing with produce. So the last thing I want to talk about is something I talk about with all my guests, which is queso. Tell me, let's start with this, because a lot of times lately I found that I talk to people and they don't know what queso is. So let's start there. Are you familiar with queso?
Yes.
Okay, good. I mean, every blue moon I catch someone off guard and they're like, what's queso? And I'm like, it's dip. It's cheese dip. Yeah. So if I were to come visit you, and I know you travel a lot and you were born in one place and college in another, so you can pick anywhere. Where would we go for queso?
For good
Your
queso?
Eyes just got real big.
Like Mexican queso? Like good queso?
I mean, if you don't have an option, you could also just, go to the grocery store.
Yeah, the queso here, there's a place that we eat here that has decent queso, but it's different than other quesos I've had. So I don't know if it's because we're so far from Mexico or what. I'm over here in Virginia.
I think the queso that I'm familiar with, I'm discovering is like a very Tex-Mex thing. It's a very Texas thing, the liquid melted Velveeta action. So that I'm from. So let me expand on that question. While I was cyber stalking you, I heard that you did a 20-something hour car trip to meet your girlfriend for Sewing Fest 88 in Texas.
Yes, that was
so. Yeah. Okay, Jill. I wondered if it was that, Jill. So did you have queso while you were here in Texas? And where in Texas were you? I was curious.
We made almost all our food because we had 8 kids between us.
Oh my gosh. You're like a restaurant's nightmare.
Yeah. And also they're all very young. So it's not really fun to take them all to a Mexican restaurant. I don't think we actually had any Mexican food when we were in Texas. The only place we ate out at was Chick-fil-A because it was Chick-fil-A day and we got free food, and a barbecue restaurant. And that was it.
You got to do that. You got to do that in Texas too. Where did you guys go in Texas?
We met up in Dallas because it was the halfway point. I think it was 23 hours for each of us, or 22 hours for each of us to drive there.
I like it. I'm from the DFW area, so I support that choice.
It was actually I didn't know what it was gonna be like. It wasn't necessarily driving through the highway wasn't oh, this place is beautiful. But when we were where we stayed at an Airbnb, it was really pretty, and they had amazing public pools with water slides, and we just went there. We just took our kids to the pools every day. It was amazing.
Do it. It's hot here, lady. We got to have pools everywhere.
Yeah, I've lived in Florida. We do not have cool public pools. And I don't know.
Because you have the ocean.
Yeah, we have the ocean.
I mean, we do too, but it's real far from Dallas.
Yeah, very far. So I like queso and I eat queso, but I don't know the best place to get it. But I do probably even more than queso. I'm so sorry. I love guacamole.
Oh, it is good.
A whole bowl of guacamole.
It is. I'm sure it's much healthier. I mean, I know it's much healthier. There is no sure about it.
Yeah, I think maybe it's healthier. That's probably it too. If I didn't have to, if there were no like health or calories or anything attached to queso, I could probably also drink a bowl of queso with chips. I mean, I could do that too.
Well, good to know. You can add avocados to the posing with produce list, or maybe I will.
I can't remember if I posed with them yet. I don't have to look back.
Add it to the list, lady. Add it to the list. Well, Katie, thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out and chatting with me today. I have had so much fun quizzing you about all the things surface design and fabric design.
Thank you. It's fun. I love doing it. Okay. This is the only second time I've ever been interviewed, but it's fun. You get to talk about yourself.
Right? I know. You were delightful. So I think this will be the second of many interviews on your horizon.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Y'all, I am not even kidding. I am thinking I will fill my new scrap box with my sewing machine, a stash of vintage fabric, a couple of Bakelite buttons, and make my mama proud. Thank you, Katie, for inspiring me. Now, obviously, I'm not going to only use vintage fabric because all of those options Katie has in her Spoonflower store are just too cute not to try. Ooh, and I can't wait to see that new rainbow collection. You guys know how I love me some color. All right, thank you so much, Katie, for stopping by and chatting. You guys be sure to pop over to creativequeso.com for the show notes and links to find Katie all the places. In the meantime, you can find her dancing on Instagram at Katie Kortman Art. That's KatieKortmanArt. And search for Katie Kortman on Spoonflower. While you are over on the Creative Queso website reading all the riveting articles, be sure to check out the weekly Taco About It Tuesday interview series. If you thought it was fun here on the podcast, but wait, there's more. This week, my friend, gardener, and author Kelly Smith Trimble stops by to talk about her creative business and her new book, Vegetable Gardening Wisdom, Daily Advice and Inspiration for Getting the Most from Your Vegetable Garden. When I have a problem in the garden, this is the woman that I text. So you're going to want to pick up her book and read this interview. Remember to please subscribe to this podcast, share, rate, review. Any and all of the above makes me feel warm and squishy inside, like there's golden delicious queso pulsing through my veins and in my heart. Thanks to Mariah Gossett for producing, Chris Beck for the music, and to you, of course, for listening and being here. Remember, if you want to hang out all week and you kind of start to miss me, that's okay. It's understandable. You can find me over on Instagram at Creative Queso or at Jennifer Perkins. And I will see you guys next Thursday.